and you'd like to dig deeper into, who you are. How's your leadership journey been in that context?
Well, let me say one thing. I may speak with this American accent, and I may have the bio that Caroline shared earlier, but at the core, I'm a simple woman, born in a small Sri Lankan village halfway around the world, born to a very simple family that worked hard and, placed great value on hard work and ethics and integrity, and to making a contribution. Service was a tradition in the family, but we never talked about it as service. We talked about what we did in the world and how we showed up in the world as our obligation in life. And so life started simply and very humbly, and with a lot of hard work. Things progressed day by day, and I woke up one day and I was 50 years old and had a set of experiences that I never dreamed of. And all of that to me was a blessing. So, some people have described my journey as sort of from the village to the White House and to the world. But I am fundamentally that simple person who believes in hard work and doing the right thing and doing good in the world. But I wouldn't make I wouldn't say that I'm a pushover by any means. I may come from humble beginnings and I may be a simple person, but I can certainly navigate the corporate boardroom and help take.
Esther, is it just me?
Take a multinational company and I can brief a president. Am I back? Am I back?
we missed you for like about maybe 20 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, at the core, I'm that simple person, but, make no mistake, I can definitely navigate a corporate boardroom, help take a multinational American company public on a stock exchange, run a global corporation with millions of dollars of revenue. But I think it's been so important for me to maintain the simplicity and the honesty and integrity that comes with being a brown-skinned woman from a village, and that's who I am. But with the confidence to navigate any leadership challenge along the way. My leadership journey, I would just divide into thirds. I spent 1/3 of my career in the public sector. I worked for President Clinton. I was a senior appointee for President Obama, and I worked for Kofi Annan in the United Nations starting out in my career. That was my public sector career. The second third of my career was spent in global civil society, helping run organizations like the International Youth Foundation and the International Partnership for Microbicides. So big, medium to large global organizations. And the final third of my career was spent in the private sector. I worked for Big 5 management and strategy consulting organizations, Grant Thornton, Arthur Andersen, and with Laureate Education, which is the largest higher education company in the world. So while I was in the private sector, I was doing mission-oriented and social impact-oriented work, but still with significant revenue responsibility. And then the final third of my, so NGO, international NGO, public sector, both US government and UN, and the private sector. And this combination of experiences is really what helped me to become the leader that I am today. With the networks and the set of skills and experiences that I could leverage for every challenge that came my way. The other aspect of my experience is that I've been a CEO, COO, CFO, head of business development, and head of public affairs. So it gave me the vantage point of all of these jobs to be the most effective CEO that I could be. What's dangerous about this for my senior staff is I've done all of their jobs very well before and have familiarity with their jobs. So I know what to ask and I know how to push. But they are experts, and typically many of them have only been CFO or only been head of fundraising. So perhaps I'm dangerous in having done all of the jobs. I'm not the expert that they are because they've typically stayed in one line of work. But this has given me an interesting vantage point to lead. And you all may want to think about different functional roles over time. And the final part about my journey has been working with boards of directors. I've worked on a variety of boards and started at the age of 24 serving on boards. And that has really helped me shape my leadership as well. So I'll stop there and come back to some of these points and try to share lessons that would be relevant to the Atlas Corps fellows who are among the finest leaders that I come across.
Wow, I'm intimidated. I don't know about you all. Maybe I chose the wrong day to do this. But anyway, I think this is not simple. As you said, if this is simple, trust me, I want this simple. I want it now. But then I also understand there's a lot of work that has gone into this up to this stage. And before I go to my next question, I just want to ask a very straightforward question. So I know most of us are in that point whereby we're still trying to figure out, are we a generalist or do we go into diversification and then we just become experts? What did you tell us? Because clearly from what you said, you are more like a generalist. You did all these parts of work and then now you're the boss that maybe some of us would feel so intimidated because you've done what we are doing. So what would you advise the fellows? Should we be a generalist or should we be focused on being experts in one area?
You know, it's such a deeply personal choice. Some of you are going to run one organization and take it really far, as Scott has done over many years now. I've watched Scott lead this organization really from the very beginning and have such deep respect for the way in which the idea is conceived and the way in which Atlas Corps has gone to scale. And there are other people like myself who've moved around every 5 to 6 years and had a very different kind of career. Then there are people who I know and respect deeply who are, you know, an Africanist or a Latin Americanist or that person who spends their career in the public health arena. I think what's important for Atlas fellows to glean is what you can learn from all of the different models and modes of working. For me, it was being a generalist. It was being that person who could come in and help take an organization to the next level. That's kind of what I specialize in. I specialize in leveraging my experiences, my networks, the lessons I've learned, the great leaders I've worked with, and bringing it to bear to transform an organization, to innovate an organization, to take it to the next level of impact and contribution in the world. So I really think it's a personal choice. And you've got to figure out for yourself, are you a one organization kind of person, a one region kind of person, a one sector, a one area of work, whether it's, you know, governance or public health or education, you've got to figure out for yourself what is right. And there are some leaders who are doing extraordinary work that I encourage them to stay in that particular line of work for the long game, because they are disrupting a particular area that they shouldn't leave. So you've got to figure it out for yourself. I used to tell university students I worked with that you are in this world with a set of skills and a set of instincts that no one else has. I have my set of instincts and my perspective that no one else can duplicate or replicate. So I think it's really about you all doing that deep reflection and introspection to figure out what is the leadership journey that makes sense for you. I think Scott figured out what his journey was going to be, and he's done it exceptionally well. And I do it differently. And each of you will have your own trajectory. It's up to you to figure it out. And it's up to you to figure it out sooner than later, because that's when you derive that optimal joy and contribution that you're meant to make in the world.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'll take you a little bit back to your experiences with different sectors, and this is like a two-part question. So what did you learn from your experience working across different sectors, as you mentioned before, and how did that make you a better leader of social change movements?
Yep. So most of you, if not all of you, are civil society leaders. I think everyone is. And some of the Atlas Corps fellows I've come across over time have actually worked in multiple sectors. And I think that having cross-sectoral experience is vital. And I bring all of that to bear every day. Now, the organization I run today, World Education Services, may be incorporated as a nonprofit, but we actually generate 100 million in revenues a year, just like any business, any sort of medium size enterprise, we're generating 100 million in revenue. Now, we take our profits and we run a set of nonprofit programs focused on immigrant economic integration, and we fund it ourselves. We also run our own philanthropic initiative through which we are doing grant making. And we capitalize the philanthropic initiative with our own money. So it's a true social enterprise at scale. Now, my multi-sector experience comes in handy because a third of my day is focused on operating the business and making sure that we're driving revenues optimally. About a third of my work is spent on policy initiatives that we're contributing to and nonprofit programs, and the rest of my work is focused on philanthropy. So how did my experience help me, or how do they help me every day? So having spent time in the business sector, I learned how to develop a business model. When you work in the private sector, you have profit and loss responsibility. You have revenue responsibility. And revenue responsibility sounds so far away from civil society work, but it is crucial because it helps you to dig into the operations of an organization. And having that kind of revenue responsibility and P&L responsibility has helped me to drive the business aspect of the social enterprise, so we never have to be out there fundraising for the organization. Hard to achieve. It is only a few organizations that achieve the scale that we've achieved, and we've been written up in the Stanford Social Innovation Review as a model social enterprise, but my business skills came in handy to drive the business. In terms of the civil society experience that I've had, I understand advocacy. I understand how to contribute to policy. I understand how to influence government, how to mobilize the public sector in support of our work. I understand how to fundraise. I understand what is deeply programmatic work. How do you develop impact-focused programs? All of those are skills you develop in civil society. From working in the public sector, I have a deep understanding of policy and policy formulation. I got to understand how government works at the highest levels, working with two presidents and with a leader like Kofi Annan. I understood the importance of engaging with the public at large. And I also got how important it is to use the power of government for convening. There's a type of convening authority that public sector organizations have that that no one else has, and we saw how that works at in the U.S. White House and with the United Nations, and as a grantee to UN agencies, I had a chance to work with UN agencies and organizations like the International Labor Organization. So I'm leveraging all of these different types of skills and experiences for optimal impact for my current organization and every organization I'm a part of. So I encourage you, as you go forward beyond your Atlas Core experience, to be open to all of these experiences. I really believe that the most effective 21st century leaders are those that can bring all of these experiences and skills to bear. And I'm just picking from my toolbox for what skills I need to draw on, given the challenge that I'm handling in any given day.
Thank you so much. And I've seen a few people have raised their hands. We see you, and we'll get to you very soon. This is so good. This is so good. This is amazing. So my next thing, you mentioned earlier on that, you come from humble beginnings in Sri Lanka. And I'm going to throw this quote at you and then see how this works. To whom much is given, much is expected. I've heard that quote 1,000 times. Yeah. It has been used on me. I don't know if I have much, but it has been used on me as well. And I guess so many other people. So from your leadership journey, you have traveled with Obama and had so many enormous opportunities that most fellows will dream for, but yet you stay humble and grounded. That being said, how do you stay true to your obligation to the world? What keeps you grounded? I'll be really, really, really interested to know how, Esther Benjamin, and then being grounded, and then from humble beginning in Sri Lanka, how what's the whole package? What's the real deal here?
Yeah. So, when I was working at Laureate, our board of directors was included some of the most significant investors in the world. And on the board was Judy Roden, who was president of Rockefeller Foundation. She was the first female president of an Ivy League university in the United States. And so just an amazing leader. And she said something to me that meant so much to me. I briefed the board of directors, and I was very nervous to walk into the offices of KKR, one of the largest investment firms in the world, where our board meetings would be held. And I had to brief 30 people, including some of the most sophisticated investors in the world. And as I walked into that room, I thought about balancing these two sort of characteristics that we as leaders, particularly leaders from around the world, need to navigate. I think it's that grounding of purpose, but it is also deep confidence. So I walked into that boardroom and I gave my briefing on the business opportunity that I was presenting to them. And I did that with a deep sense of purpose, but never forget the confidence that needs to come along with it. Being humble does not mean that you're not confident, and you've got to navigate that balance between deeply being rooted and grounded and not taking yourself too seriously, not believing in your own bullshit, as sometimes people say, not drinking your own Kool-Aid. Don't take yourself seriously, but have that deep sense of purpose and be so confident. So that's kind of how I walked in that room. And after the meeting, Judy said, "Can we catch up a few minutes?" And we did. And she said, she actually gave me one compliment that meant so much to me. And she said, "I'm so impressed with who you are, with your humility, and but I'm also so impressed with your confidence." So I share that with you. You're a little earlier in your careers than me. So be grounded in being those civil society leaders from many developing countries and other countries of the world. I recognize you are truly global. That's going to keep you humble, but boy, do you need to walk in with the confidence to brief the world's top investors. So navigate both of those. So I never take myself too seriously, but I take my business seriously, and I take understanding every component of my business inside and out, knowing the numbers, knowing the quantitative, the qualitative, knowing the near term, the long term, knowing what needs to get done today, and having a vision for that, the future. I need to know my business, but let all of that be founded and grounded in reality and your sense of purpose and your contribution that you are meant to give to the world.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna drink my water now.
Not the Kool-Aid. Just one thing I would add is there's a theologian, and his name is Frederick Buechner. And this theologian and writer and philosopher said that you have to find the intersection between your deepest gladness and the world's deepest hunger. And I think that is so beautifully said about sort of your vocation, right? Where is your deepest gladness, and where is the world's deepest hunger? And if you think of those as sort of overlapping circles, if you can hone in for you, what gives you the ultimate joy, and what does the world need the most? And if you can find that point of intersection, you have discovered what you're going to do. And in your case, as Atlas Core Fellows, you all are in this program because you are people who found that intersection. And you're going to keep honing in and focusing in further to dig in and go even deeper for the impact you're driving for.
Scott, thank you for drinking your water. Anybody else took a sip of the water during the break? I did. Not Kool-Aid, but just a bit of water. This is so good. You know, thank you for sharing so many deep ideas. The more I speak to you, the more I learn a lot, and I'm very sure fellow fellows as well do the same, and an alumni as well. So my next question, and I still think this is not simple. You said simple, but I don't think this is simple. So New York best-selling author Wes Moore.
Simple person with grand ideas for the world.
Amazing. New York Times best-selling author Wes Moore profiled Esther as a globalist in his book, The Work My Search. I need a copy. I need a copy. My Search for a Life That Matters. How did this make you feel?
Again, I've known Wes a long time, and one of the things that, I'm sure Scott has talked to you about this, but the importance of your global network. I've been collecting just amazing people in my life, and through the White House Fellowship Program, I got to become really close friends with Wes, and he wrote a best-selling book called The Other Wes Moore, and it's this fantastic, amazing, moving book about someone with his same name, thus the title of his first book, The Other Wes Moore. He woke up the day that he was flying to become a Rhodes Scholar, and on the front page of the Baltimore Sun was a story of another Wes Moore, same exact name, but he was going to life in prison for killing an off-duty policeman. While there was another story about my friend Westmore, who was going to Oxford to become a Rhodes Scholar. He wrote a letter to the other Westmore who was in prison, and they began a friendship. And the book is about, his first book was about the journey of two different people, same age, same name, same city, and different choices made along the way that resulted in very different lives. So I knew the whole story of the first book. And one day, years after the publishing of his first book, I got a call from Wes saying, I'm going to write a second book. And I said, oh, what's it going to be about? And he said, it's going to be about my search for a life that matters. And I said, that's fantastic. What a great topic. And, what are you going to include in it? And what's it going to be about? And at the end of the call, he said, I actually was calling to see if I could include you in the book. And so I did about 100 hours of interviews for the book, and he wrote it up, and the chapter was entitled The Globalist. So I was very humbled to be included in the book. But again, I don't believe my own bullshit. And it's not about the articles written about you and being included in books or featured in whatever. That's not what brings me joy. What brings me joy is the students that graduated from my university achieving greatness and driving impact themselves. That is what has to bring us joy and pride. So while I was proud to be included in this book, that's actually not what drives me or motivates me. Connection with people like yourselves, my connection with Scott over many years, watching Atlas Corps fellows, and I've watched them probably since class 1 and 2, achieve greatness. That brings me joy. So being connected to a global network of change makers, that's what brings me true joy and fulfillment.
Wow, thank you. I haven't read the book. I have to admit, shame on me. It's okay. It might seem obvious that, you've worked internationally, however, but I'm just looking for that grip. Why do you think Westmore calls you the globalist? Just one word for it.
Yeah, the section of the book that I'm included in is the public servant, and I think there's a subtitle of the chapter: "The Work of the People, by the People, for the People," and then he decided to feature me as a public servant devoted to globalism. And another point to you all work in communities and countries. Some of you probably do regional work. Some of you may do work that's more global in nature. I think we as people from, many of you are from the global South, many of you are from developing or middle income countries. I think those of us with this profile really need to have a global perspective. So I actually sought out very early on a set of global experiences. So that included global jobs, that included global fellowships, just like the one you're doing. I did about 4 or 5 of them, global networks, and the ability to really go anywhere in the world and be able to tap a network, tap a set of organizations to do what you need to do. I'll give you an example. I've been working in India for many, many years, probably 20 plus years. So because I've had global experiences, I've gone to India and worked with organizations in India or had a branch office in India for 20 plus years. So I went to India this year in January, February for my current organization. And I was able to tap a network of people and organizations that went back 20 plus years. I was able to advance the work that I did in India in those 2 weeks, building on all of those experiences. So I really, really encourage you, whether you work in a community, a country, a region, to keep deepening those experiences worldwide, deepening those networks. And it'll be amazing as you reach 50 and beyond how you're able to scale and deepen your work because of that global network. You should be able to go anywhere in the world and say, okay, today I'm in Turkey, and I need to draw on these people that I know from years past, chapters past, to help me do what I need to do here. And that's what I would encourage you to do in the coming years. I've managed programs now in about 110 countries, and that all of that comes into play as I'm working on something today. So what I'm working on today will help me with future chapters as well. So as civil society leaders, your time in the United States, and some of you may be in other parts of the world, keep strengthening your global ties, perspective, and networks.
Wow, thank you. I know people have questions, just hold on. We'll be done soon, and then we'll open up the floor. Take us back to your younger self. Your younger self when you're just starting out, and how excited you are to work in international development, just like I am, just like some of these people are. Which advice will you give to your younger self? And what advice, this is a two-part question, and what advice will you give to the fellows on how to seek opportunities, or rather go for what they want, especially within the international development space?
So as I look back to my younger self, I was 24 years old and, out of grad school and headed to Somalia during the crisis to be a humanitarian officer when Kofi Annan was head of peacekeeping operations. I had no business being in that role at age 24, but someone trusted me, and boy, did it contribute to my development and evolution. So as I look back, I'm gratified that some of the things that I knew to do instinctively were the right things to do. So despite being a simple person who was born and raised in a village in a third world country, I knew to be fearless. I've been fearless in walking into any room, any type of organization. So I'm glad that I was always fearless. I knew to work hard and give it 1,000% every day. So I'm gratified I did that. I had an instinct that people in my life were key, and you may move on from organizations, and you may move on from jobs, but the people that you go through these experiences with, the people that you execute and implement projects with, they stay with you for life. So I'm so glad that I treasured the people in my life every step of the way. I had an instinct also to seek out a variety of experiences. So I'm glad I did that. While back in the day, we never talked about personal brand, I think instinctively I knew that my personal brand was around service and being someone who could navigate multiple sectors. A person who could work with numbers and programs, and a person who could roll up my sleeves and do work on my own or be out there. So I sought out varied experiences, and all of this became a part of my brand. And I think today in leadership, we think more scientifically about building a personal brand, right? So keep thinking about that. I think there are two things I wish I knew in a more in a more intense way. Oftentimes going through life, I wasn't quite sure if I was taking on the right chapters in life, and if I was doing the right set of things, and joining the right set of organizations. But today I realize that I wish I could have told my younger self, take it one day at a time, one issue at a time, one challenge at a time, and you will achieve that contribution you're trying to make. The other thing I would tell my younger self is keep an eye on your whole life. I am ambitious and wanting to make contributions. I'm also a mother. I was married and I divorced some years later. So keep an eye on your whole life. And I had a coach recently who did an assessment of me. And I thought this was going to be a professional assessment that I was going to pass with flying colors, but it was an assessment of all aspects of my life. Profession was just a small part of it. Family relationships, personal relationships, my life, my relationship with my children, physical health, mental health, my spiritual journey. And she made me realize my whole person. And I'm much more conscious of it today. And, from probably mid 40s to now, that I wish I could tell myself to never lose sight of the whole self and to live all aspects of my life, not just my professional ambitions. Yeah, let me stop there. I want to make sure we get to your questions.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna jump in